While the picture looks like a virus, but it is not really a virus. Okay.
Yeah.
This I had made this slide long time back. So
Okay.
pre-COVID, it is. I realized that it looks like virus actually, but it is not.
Yeah.
Dhamini sir, shall we start or shall we wait?
So another 3:10 will start, sir.
Okay, no problem. That's fine.
So another 3:10 will start, sir. Okay, no problem. That's fine.
There's a echoing. So till the time others join, let's chat about how has been the sessions so far. I'm asking students. with the sessions workshop? Who all attended the workshop over the weekend? Finance workshop. There was a workshop on business analysis, uh, big account management on sales and marketing, HR analytics. Anybody attended HR analytics workshop? Anybody? Workshop on HR analytics. Can you hear me? No one? Or no
Yes, sir,
one
we can
wanted?
hear.
Did you attend? Anybody attended workshop on HR analytics? No? It was a very important workshop. It is going to happen again. Finance, I know there are a lot of people in finance from BU, right? Who attended finance workshop? Advanced financial analysis, valuation and internal control. No
Yes,
one?
sir, we have attended.
How was it useful? Give me the frank feedback.
Yes, sir,
I
it
am
was
not
useful, but there was more of theory, sir, what they were doing. If they
serious.
use any practical problems like that, it will be much more better.
But they didn't take company statements and then they analyzed it and
Yes,
all
sir, it
that.
is the company statement, sir. But if they took some more, it will be better.
Hmm. Yeah, and I understand, Chetan. I think what we are struggling actually is this remote teaching actually, right, is becoming slightly difficult. Uh,
Yes, sir.
but anyway, I take your point. HR analytics, no one did, is it? No, HR analytics, you also have HR marketing specializations also, right? I'm very keen on knowing how HR analytics went. I mean, I have the feedback, but still want to know. And good.
Around 66 are there. I think you can go ahead and start, sir. I think
We'll start, is
we'll
it?
begin. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
3:10,
because
almost 3:10.
yeah, 3:10 almost. Yeah, people actually should join on time. I know you may be having classes, but I think time is just time discipline is very important. That's the first prerequisite actually for industry. Okay, so good afternoon. Let's next about 80 to 90 minutes. I'll be talking about a very important topic. You can also call it current affairs if you want to, right? But it's from management students, actually, global business environment is a very important topic to understand. Other than the right people, since you will be part of business administration, business management, it becomes a very important topic, not only to understand the internal environment in your company, also understand what is really happening outside, right? And and see how it impacts the companies. Okay, so I will be, and let's keep it interactive, as I always tell you. I'll be discussing few topics: globalization, outsourcing, protectionism, trade wars, a little bit Brexit, insourcing. What is insourcing? What is GICs? A little bit about geopolitical risk, mergers and acquisitions. Right, these are the topics I will be, and then global warming and sustainability. These all the topics that I have listed here, they directly impact the business directly, not even indirectly. They directly impact business actually, right? So if you talk about geopolitical risk, biggest geopolitical risk is happening right now. It's really not really a localized, right? It's a global pandemic, right? And then several examples of geopolitical risk. I jumped actually to number 5. So these are a very important topic from the business point of view, and therefore we thought we should give you some idea about these aspects of doing business, right? And then see, no amount of sessions on this will be enough. So I will be only giving you, setting the direction for you to actually follow, right? I have already said that you should be, keeping yourself current and read business news and all that. So that goes without saying. But a little bit deeper into this, right? So let's start. What is globalization? Anybody? What is globalization? We live in the global world as the globe on the right side says. Anybody can attempt and tell me? All of you know it, right? But let's discuss it. What is globalization and why it happens?
Marketing and selling our products all over the world, sir.
Marketing and selling of products all over the world. Correct. Anybody else? Marketing and selling a product all over the world. Can there be a broader definition? You are right, absolutely. What you said is correct. Anybody else? Global, going global, what does it mean? Marketing and selling products all over the world. Absolutely, you are right. So let's see. Globalization is the word used to, and I'm not worrying about the bookish, dictionary definition or anything. Uh, Globalization is the word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations brought about by cross-border trade, right? In goods and services, technology, and flows. The most important part of this flows of investment, people, and information, right? Flows of investment, people, and information. That's the most important part, right? In globalization, unless there is a flow of investment, people, and information, globalization will not happen, right? These are the three important aspects of uh, going globalization. So basically, countries, businesses expanding, going beyond their country of origin, right? Anybody else? Anybody else want to attempt? What else is globalization? Anybody else want to tell me anything about globalization?
Trade of goods and services all over the world.
Trade of goods and services all over the world. Excellent. Absolutely. Trade of goods and services all over the world. And that is enabled by, or it is followed by investment, people, and information. Flow of investment, people, and information all over the world. Right? So globalization basically, cross geography, basically trade of goods and services beyond your country, right? And then basically, this thing world is becoming global. We are all tied by a global world, right? So has globalization benefited India or not? What do you think? Has globalization benefited on India? Let's spend some time on this question. It's a very important question to ask. If I send this topic for group discussion, this can be a group discussion topic. Has globalization benefited India or not? What is the benefit and what is the downside? What is the disadvantage and what is the advantage?
Yes, sir, it has benefited India.
It has benefited India. Tell me how.
Sir, it has gotten the much needed newer technology that India did not have.
Okay.
On the other side, it also got in the Western culture.
Mm-hmm.
So this can be one disadvantage.
Yeah, but Western culture. Okay, yeah. Let's not get into the. Yeah, I mean, okay. Let's stay in the domain which is undisputed, because when you talk about cultures and you and me say that it has got there's a bad influence, somebody say no, it's okay and all that. So right, let's not get into that topic, culture topic. But from the business front, is there a disadvantage? You said benefit. We have got new technology. Any other benefit we see? We got new
Yes,
cars.
sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Huge number of exports, sir.
Huge number of export. We are exporting $180 billion of IT to the world, right? Soon
Yes.
touching $200 billion. Absolutely huge. So we have got benefited, right? Big way we have got benefited. We have got, because of industry, export industry, which could be in IT, could be manufacturing, right? Could be automobile, textile. Because of that, standard of living of our population has increased, and because of that, we see greater consumption in our country, and businesses are flourishing because people earn more and they spend more. Right? It's another matter that we are paying a lot of taxes and infrastructure is not increasing, which is a more of a political issue actually, right? But so that's a benefit actually, right? What is the downside? Anybody thinks of any downside other than the cultural aspect?
Inequality, sir. A lot of competition is happening.
Okay, yeah. So competition is not necessarily a bad thing, right? But you say inequality. You said that, right? And we will explore a little bit about competition. You brought in an interesting point, and I really like this such smart things coming up. Inequality, competition. Is competition good or bad? If competition is happening because of globalization, is it good? Let's address that, or maybe we'll address that in the next slide. We'll address that in the next slide. Okay. Any other downside you see of globalization? Anybody see downside? This is directly related to your jobs, directly related to the kind of work you may be doing. Some of the finance people, even HR, supply chain even bigger actually, right? A supply chain or marketing. Okay, let's see. So India and China trade deficit, right? So India exports to China. So this is all because of globalization. India exports to China. This is 2019 figures. Export to China is 13.3 billion from India. India's import from China is 76.3 billion. These are the numbers you can see. There's World Economic Forum numbers. These are. India's trade deficit with China is $63 billion. $63 billion is the trade deficit, right? So our dependence on China is huge, right? So what is happening is our reliance on China is huge. So what is happening is we are, in crude words, if I see, right, Chinese companies are in big way benefiting from India, right? Whatever companies they are, right? So we are actually benefiting Chinese economy more than China is benefiting our economy, right? You understand? Everybody clear about it?
Yes, sir.
They say China
Yes,
is
sir.
right. There is China, and I'm just giving an example, right? And this issue is the same issue with European Union with China. Same issue with US also has with China. China is in huge trade surplus with the world. China is called world supply chain, right? So what happened is the supply chain has got concentrated in one country, right? So they say, if you, pardon me if I've taken this example earlier, right? If you buy, let's say, a bond, you understand what is a bond? Bond. If you buy a bond from a private company, manufacturing company, let's say Mahindra and Mahindra Finance actually, sells bonds. So bonds are basically, you buy a bond for ₹1,00,000, they'll give you, let's say, 8% of interest. Right now, maybe around 8%, 7.5% if you buy a Mahindra and Mahindra bond, right, for 3 years. So if you get ₹1,00,000 to them, they'll give you 7.5 interest for 3 years. You get your money locked in. What they do is they take, basically, you are giving them loan, right? They are raising debt financing, right? So they are raising debt, and then they will use that to expand their business, to use for working capital, or to basically manufacture cars or farm equipment and all that. But in turn, Mahindra may be buying a lot of parts and supplies from China. So recently there was an article in Mint, and I said you should read Mint and at least scan through it, every couple of days, Mint or Times of India or Economic Times. So if you buy a bond from a private manufacturing company in India, right, there is a likelihood, there is a very strong likelihood that you are supporting Chinese business indirectly, right? And that is true for a European company as that's true for American company. So it is so intertwined actually right now, right? So 63 billion is the trade surplus that China has with India, right? And what happens is Chinese as a country gets benefited. And I'm not talking about a nationalism and all that. I'm just giving an example. Maybe the trade deficit is so stark that you can't really ignore this, right? And then Chinese government uses that money against us by encroaching our land in north of India, right? So that's the problem of globalization. While I may have spent more time on problem, but the benefit is definitely much more, right? I know I spend more time explaining the downside of globalization, but there is a downside, there is imbalance, but there is a huge plus side. If if we had if India had not opened the economy in 1991, some of you were probably not, all of you were probably not born at that time, right? We would not have seen globalization in India, right? And we would not have done the immense amount of work that our country is doing right now, right? In manufacturing, in export of technology and services, and so on, right? So we already discussed examples of globalization. IT industry is the first thing which comes to mind. Global tourism, there we have a lot of tourism in India. There's so much of manufacturing happening in India. Automobile manufacturing, huge manufacturing happening in India. India exporting the cars. Right? Textile manufacturing happens here. Right? Pharmaceutical, we are a pharmaceutical supply chain of the world, but raw material still comes from China, right? The maximum number of vaccines in the world are developed in India, right? Basically, right? So benefit is definitely more than the downside. Any questions on this? Any thoughts? So let's discuss the competition aspect. So anyway, so I will come to this. So what has happened actually over a period? There are two charts here, right? How globalization has changed the world over a period of time. So in the left chart that again these charts are from World Bank, right? Both the charts are from World Bank. I borrowed from World Bank. As the source down, if you see the slide, it says now chart on the top left side says that from 1500 to 2010, about 2010. What is the volume of trade, global trade, what as compared to the world GDP, right? So they say that global the value of global trade, let's say in 1820, here 1820 was about less than 10%. Global trade was less than 10% of GDP, right? Say it started from somewhere less than 5%. In 1600, maybe it was 5%. 1700, it was 6% or something. 1850, global trade was about 7-8% of the global GDP, and see how it fluctuated. Right, it went up and went down and went up and went down. So it because of several events, geopolitical events happen, and then it fluctuates. But more or less in last 150 years, it has gone up, and it has gone up to about 65% in 2000, right? And then maybe because of 2008 financial crisis, World Trade Center, and whatever happened, right? It is about 60% in 2015, and it may be going up again. So it's about 65 to 70%. Global trade, the volume of global trade is about 65 to 70% of world GDP. So it only tells you that how global the businesses have gone, right? In other words, anything that happened in one part of the world in terms of business, you would have seen actually, right? When there is a shock in economies in Japan or in Singapore or Asia Pacific or US or Europe or even in African economies actually, right? The stock markets actually go up and down because people think that is going to impact other economies, right? So it happens, right? Interest rate changes actually in one country, and then issues will happen in another country, right? Because value of money actually changes, loans become cheaper or more expensive, right? So that's the top chart. And what has happened? There is major economies drop tariffs. See, what happens is globalization. What we are saying is world trade. World trade as a percent of GDP. Trade happens because what is the barrier to world trade is the tariffs. Tariff means when you apply duties, right? For example, Donald Trump, outgoing president of US, always has this grudge against India. That Harley Davidson that they sell motorcycle in India, India applies about 200% duties, right, on it. So if it is $50,000 in US, right, or if it $25,000 in US, it costs about $65,000 in India, right? It becomes very expensive, right? I'm just giving you an example, and I may not be quoting the right number also. But a 2.5. So what happens is, if tariffs, if duty, tariff means the levy, right? Tariff you apply, tariffs become hindrance to global trade. So if a country wants to prevent export of goods into their country, foreign goods into their country, they can raise the duty. What happens is, and I will cover that into protectionism. What happens is that good or service become more expensive. Then it does not become viable for people to buy that goods or service, right? And become expensive. So what happens is, if you see how tariffs have changed as a result of globalization in last, let's say since 1900, right? 1900 to 2015. So last 25 years, how tariffs have changed. You can see tariffs have gone down, right? Because countries in general see benefit of globalization. So tariffs have gone down, and world trade has increased as a percentage of global GDP. Right now, so globalization, they say, is essential for world prosperity and peace. Right, more goods and low price, scaled up businesses, quality and variety. Now, somebody talked about quality, competition actually, right? See, competition. If why will I buy a Chinese good in India, or why will I buy an American good? Let's say an American company selling a good in India, and an Indian company is selling a good in India, right? Or why will I go and buy a good which is not of Indian origin? Give me a single reason. There could be two reasons actually, right? Think about two reasons. Why do you buy when you need something? When you go and buy, how do you choose? It's a very elementary question. How do you decide which product you will buy if you have two choices? One made in US and one made in India. How will you decide?
Which of the product is better, sir?
Which of the product actually better satisfies your requirement? That is the first thing, right? First thing you will see, I want a product with ABC features. All features are there or not. Second, you will see what is the reputation and what is the price. What is the quality and what is the price? Three things you will see, right? You will see quality, price, right? And whether it meets your requirement or not. Requirement could also be in terms of price, but I'm talking of features, price, and right. So, right thing at the right price. But if it does not meet that, then what will you do? You will not buy that, right? So cost of manufacturing, if it is higher in India, Indian product will be more expensive. If quality is not good, right, you will not buy it, right? So competition is healthy, because when you get, when somebody, if I produce a product ABC and there is another product available in the market which is exported from another country in my country, now the manufacturer of ABC has to improve the quality, right? So actually, globalization is healthier because you can actually customer wins because of quality and variety, right? And businesses have to constantly thrive to improve the quality. They have to provide the right quality at the right price, right? And most importantly, because of globalization, demand is there, so businesses also scale up, right? Because business have opportunity to, the markets are, somebody said, markets are not limited. You can go beyond your own markets in your country. You can access foreign markets, so you can scale up business, right? And you can, as you scale up, you can produce more at lower price. What happens is, when you scalability, right? Scalability, concept of scalability is that when you scale up something, I produce more number of units, per unit price will go down, right? So you have fixed cost you are going to spread on the more number of units, right? So scaled up businesses, more goods at lower price, quality and variety, and innovation, right? Because the amount of innovation which has happened over the last 20 years, I mean, and that can be said about every time past few years, past decade actually, right? Future decades is going to be even faster in terms of innovation, right? Because the kind of businesses which have originated actually, right, over the business models that we have seen over the last 15, 20 years, 25 years actually. They were not seen before that. And now the same thing will happen again actually in the future also. Right, so there is a lot of positive it's basically an essential beast actually. You can't really do away with globalization because the world is global. It is which is gone global beyond. You can't roll back, right? People say there is a negative side, and it is generally believed there's a negative side, job churn. So, for example, a lot of jobs actually got lost in Western countries, in Europe and United States. But what really happens is, why do the Western countries send work in India? Because it makes them more profitable, right? Their cost of doing business goes down, and therefore they want to send work to India, China, Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, right? But there's a manufacturing or services work, they will send work here. As a result, they can actually invest more in the businesses and they can generate more jobs, right? So actually, job churn is a short-term issue, but in longer term, actually, it only benefits, right? Any questions on this, on globalization aspect before we go further? Okay. So there's something called, related to that, there's something called global location strategy, right? And then as you work for global companies, right, PwC or JP Morgan Chase or AIG or Citibank or, right, PricewaterhouseCoopers, right, whichever company, Goldman Sachs, right? And I hope some of you get jobs there. Some of you already started getting jobs, right? So three of supply chain people from DSU have got jobs into PwC. Couple of weeks back, and there is no reason why some of you should not get it, right? If you work very hard and prepare yourself, you will get. So there's something called global location strategy. So global companies actually, what they are doing actually, right? So if a job comes up, if a requirement for a new resource or a new job comes up, and I'm explaining it theoretically, but actually, in many cases it happens like this. So a requirement comes up in Citibank or Accenture, right, in North America. So they will say, I will send this job, right, where it can be performed best in terms of quality, speed, and cost, right? Because location barriers are not, it has been proven beyond doubt that most jobs can be done unless you have to provide healthcare or you have to manufacture. Obviously, you can't remotely manufacture. Even surgeries are actually happening remotely nowadays, right? Surgeries are actually also happening remotely with robotics, right? Not all surgery, but some surgeries are happening, right? So definitely services jobs of consulting, technology, right? All kinds of consulting jobs can be done from anywhere. And the companies now actually following, insurance companies and banks, global banks, consulting firms and all that are following global localization strategy. So when they will have a requirement, they will try to find where I can get this service cheapest and best in quality, and where it can be provided at the right speed, where it can be given, delivered at the right time, right? So that this is the global location strategy of companies follow, where you can. So if I have to, let's say, I have a new project come up. Let's say I'm part of Citibank in US, and a new project has come up, right? I will try to see where I can place this project. Because Citibank may have actually, locations in India. They may have a location in Philippines or Singapore, Europe, many places. They will see where they can get the best in terms of all three aspects, right? So that is something called global location strategy. Now that happens for business process management, right? India is a hub for BPM, right? It used to be called BPO earlier, business process outsourcing. That is called business process management. Actually, in BPO is the outsource the management of the process. So sales, sales order processing, right, or billing, or claims management, right, or medical transcriptions, and these are all business. So it's called BPM. So global location strategies followed in for business process management, even manufacturing also, right? Companies actually see where and best quality, and where I can get a right manpower, right? Contract manufacturing, these are the terms you can look at. IT services is the big example of global location strategy. The India is the biggest beneficiary of global location strategy. And research now actually even companies like Biocon are doing contract research. There is a contract research. So there is a subgroup division of Biocon called Syngene. I think Syngene. I think they do. If I'm not wrong, they do research for diabetes. So a lot of companies from Europe and US are outsourcing the research projects also to India, right? In various fields. So that is one aspect of again global business environment. Any questions on this? No question. Is it making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is protectionism? Give me, have you heard of this term called protectionism? We talked about globalization so far. There's something called protectionism. So let me ask this question. The current trend is towards globalization or protectionism? First of all, you have to understand what is protectionism. Protect. Any idea what is protectionism? All of you know English. I'm sure all of you know it. I think you people don't respond. That's the problem.
We haven't heard those words.
You haven't. Protectionism basically protecting the.
Protecting from the COVID measures.
Okay, yeah, maybe yeah. Protectionism basically. See, globalization is basically letting the business grow global, right? Protectionism is protecting the business within your boundaries, right? Basically safeguarding your business and saying that I will protect my business from the ill effect of globalization. There is an opinion, a lot of countries have an opinion that globalization has not benefited me. Globalization is not benefiting me, right? So I need to protect my economy against globalization, right? There may be some countries, some people in India can also say, right, saying that so much of money is going out. $63 billion is a trade deficit, right? There could be an opinion, but the benefit is still much higher because we would not have seen the economic progress the way we have seen in last 25-30 years if we have not really gone global, right? You would have not got to use the products and services that you have, right? So protectionism is an economic policy of restricting imports from other countries through methods such as tariffs on imported goods, import quotas, and variety of other government regulations. So what I said, if I increase the tariff, levy or duty on a particular good that we are importing, if a government time to time government will increase if they think that people are hoarding too much of gold, too much of money is getting stuck in gold, right? Government will increase the import duty on gold. This was happening about 2-3 years back, right? Government will say let's make gold unattractive. They will increase the import duty. As a result, price of gold will go up in India, right? And or they may put import quotas on gold. I think they do import. I think when price of gold actually goes up in India, Indian people are very happy because they'll buy more and more gold actually, right? That's the problem with us, right? But they will come up with import quotas and they will put other barriers actually too. But that is not a example of protectionism. Protectionism basically restricting import into my country because I want to safeguard my businesses, right? What any global example of you think any global example of protectionism that you think which is happening right now? in last 3 years. Biggest example of protectionism that you may have seen in the world recently.
Sir, it may be within USA and China.
USA and China, definitely trade wars are happening. You are right.
Trade wars.
But anything happening in Europe and UK, anything that you can call is an example of protectionism. UK.
Is one of the state took back from the country, right? So, like one Europe country took back its rights in GDP. Like they made their separate constitution.
So this Brexit.
Yes, Brexit.
So Brexit is a big example of protectionism, right? Right. So what happened is European Union has, I think, 27 countries, right? If I'm not wrong, I may be wrong actually, right? And these countries have a free trade, and then they also have single currency, right? Uh, there was an opinion in UK, in Great Britain, saying that Great Britain is not benefiting because there are a lot of Polish people and a lot of East European people actually in London and in UK, right? So British people, population in general, had an opinion and political opinion that other countries of European Union are benefiting more from UK than UK is benefiting from the European Union. And then they did a referendum. Referendum means they did a vote. Every single person will vote whether they should come out of UK or European Union or not. And then country decided to vote in favor of exiting European Union. It's called Brexit, Britain's exit from European Union, right? Which actually got delayed. I think it's formed up already. There was an issue earlier. There were a lot of hurdles, but now they're still in the process. But the decision is firm. They had a deal with the European Union to come out, and then finally they are coming out right now. This is an example of protectionism, right? As a result, what is happening is, so earlier, a lot of people from European Union could go and work in the US. The visa requirements are very lenient. Now everybody will need a visa, and then it become like any other country, right? So Brexit is an example of protectionism. US-China trade war, right? US has been imposing a lot of tariffs on Chinese trade into US because China and US trade surplus is even huge in favor of China, very big in favor of China, right? Similarly, protectionism, what? When US Donald Trump says that I'm going to reduce the H1B quota, right? H1B quota I'm going to reduce. So basically what he's saying, I don't want more foreign workers to come into my country, right? I would like my people to get a job, right? So that is an example of protectionism, right? Has anybody heard of RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership? RCEP, last week. Has anybody heard of this? Anybody? RCEP, what really happened? My friends, if you are business management professionals, you need to know this. You must know this, right? It's difficult. I understand. Reading newspaper is not a great idea. We don't think it's a great thing, but it's very, very important. If you want an edge against good business schools, right? You must know these things. RCEP is a free trade agreement which was signed. It is in making for the last 1 year. India had said in November 2019 itself that we will not be part of RCEP. So there are countries, I think 1890 countries in the Asia Pacific, including Japan, China, all Asia Pacific countries, Australia, New Zealand. They have signed a free trade agreement, right? So there will be very minimal tariffs to trade for the free flow of goods and services among these countries. India didn't sign it because India thinks that Chinese goods will flow into the country, right? And we will not benefit. Right? So India has not signed, the RCEP treaty, right? They have stayed out. But when these countries signed it last week, they said India can join anytime. So they have left the door open for India, right? And I encourage you to read this. It's very important that you you understand these things, right? So RCEP is India's action to protect our local businesses, right? As an example of protectionism. There is a very strong reason. There is very strong reason actually, right? And there is a debate in India that we should is it a right move or not? But most political parties are cutting across spectrum says that, including Congress and BJP, everybody says that it's a right move, right? So how protectionism works actually, right? Protectionism happens. A country can protect its economy, a government can protect its economy by putting various measures, import tariffs as I talked about, import quotas, limiting the number of goods that can be produced abroad and sold domestically, limits foreign competition domestic. So you can say these type of goods I will not allow to be imported, right? So India probably will say import of wheat will not be allowed in India because I am surplus in wheat, right? Otherwise somebody can flow cheap wheat into India, right? So things like that. Domestic subsidies. Subsidizing costs of providing cheap loans to domestic companies can increase their competitiveness against foreign. So for example, if I make companies take loan to manufacture actually, right? To for their working capital or to buy raw material, right? If I provide cheaper loans to my manufacturing industry in India, right? What will happen is cost of manufacturing will go down, and as a result, my product will be costing less. Indian company can produce for less cost if you reduce the interest rate in India, right? That is, or you can subsidize. For example, gas cylinders in India are subsidized. Petrol, right? They say subsidized. Actually, they are trying to make it free of subsidies. But again, it is debatable, right? It's very expensive in India, right? Petrol. So they're saying that domestic government giving subsidies to businesses or cheaper loans can prevent the import by foreign companies, because what happens is when you are able to produce it, your companies are able to produce cheap, people will buy from your companies and they will not buy the foreign goods. Exchange rates. It is generally believed that China fudges the exchange rate, right? So what happens? Let's say if rupee becomes expensive, let's say 60 rupees to a dollar. Right now it may be 73 or 74 rupees to a dollar. Let's say rupee becomes 60 rupees to a dollar. What will happen? Will export benefit or export will suffer? If rupee becomes expensive, if rupee appreciates, it means you have to pay less number of rupees to buy a dollar. It means rupee is appreciating. What will happen to exports is my question. Think about it. You must have studied economics actually, right? No one?
Export will suffer.
Export will suffer. Export will suffer because every dollar you will go to export, you will get less number of rupees. Earlier you were getting 74 rupees when you were exporting for a dollar. Now you're getting 60 rupees now.
Yes, sir.
Right? What happens to import?
Will get more money.
Import will become more attractive.
Yes.
You are able to buy goods worth of a dollar for less number of rupees now. Isn't it true? So if you are importing raw material, you are going to. What happens if rupee devalues? What happens to IT companies? When valuation of rupees goes down, when rupee devalues, what will happen to the shares of Infosys? What will happen? Export will become attractive when rupee devalues. Export will become attractive when rupee devalues. When rupee is becoming, let's say, for 1 rupee is $1 is 60 rupees today. right? $1 becomes 75 rupees. Export will become good because you're going to now get more money for a dollar export that you will export. Exporting. Buying will become more expensive, right? If I am sending my son, if let's say if you have to go to US or let's say US to study, right? And rupee now devalues, what will happen? What is happening? You are buying a service from US. You may be going to US, but you are buying a service from US. So what happened is your fee is going to increase because your parents are going to pay money in terms of rupees. Your fee is going to increase because rupee has become devalued. Right? Think about this. Right? Currency has a if India has to make export attractive, lower the value of currency, better the export. Right? I'm assuming you would have learned this economics, right? So countries actually manage their exchange rates. Especially, it is believed that China actually manages the exchange rate to make export very attractive for them, right? And then and it works better because what happens is there is a can everybody go on mute because I am hearing some background noise, right? So think about it. Administrative barriers, because see, the exchange rate business should be very, very clear to all of you, right? These are the basics that you must know, right? It takes some time to understand this, but you must know this. There's a background noise. Kirtana, can you please go on mute, please? Kirtana. Okay. Right. So similarly, there could be regulations, administrative barriers can be put, and so on. Okay. Outsourcing, we discussed it. There are various forms of outsourcing that happen: information technology, remote infrastructure management. Right now, a lot of companies, even the IT infrastructure in companies in United States, in Europe, in Japan, and Asia Pacific is managed from India. For example, HCL, they do a lot of server management from India. All the application, that IT infrastructure for the top companies and many companies in Western world is managed from India. Business process management, we talked about. Research, we talked about. Manufacturing also, we talked about, actually, right? I talked about a lot of manufacturing also. I don't want to repeat that, right? I discussed this. What is the size of IT industry and ITES industry? There's a lot of background noise disturbing me. Ravindra sir, can we? Okay, now she is gone on mute. Okay. Yeah. So outsourcing is also part of globalization. So $181 billion is the business that India does. This is in 2019 number. It will be maybe around the same, actually, because this year export would have suffered because of COVID, right? But so insourcing. So what happened is there's something called, like, you have globalization, you have protectionism, you have outsourcing, you have something called insourcing, right? So insourcing is basically process of, see, actually, what is insourcing? Let's say a company is outsourcing the work, right? And then if they take the work back in-house, that is called insourcing, right? So outsourcing and insourcing happen in a cyclic fashion, right? What happens is, typically companies will outsource because if you see why companies like Citibank or General Electric or AIG or JP Morgan Chase, they outsource their technology, right? Because they think, for example, JP Morgan Chase may think, my business is in the field of finance, my business is not in the field of technology. But as the companies become very big, global, their IT infrastructure, IT requirement also go very big, right? So IT can be a very big company. For example, in AIG, I work for AIG, right? AIG had a 65 billion revenue, and they had about 65,000 employees. Out of that, 25,000 were IT employees, right? So 25,000, lot of Indian IT companies are not 25,000 employees. So they think it is becoming so big that they are having to manage the entire size of an IT company. So what they will say, let me outsource this to somebody else. Let me give this to expert and let me focus on my insurance and finance business only. So they will outsource it, right, to experts, right? And then they will benefit from outsourcing in the beginning, right? But what happens is companies' cultures change because of outsourcing, right? Their level of customers, their level of, I'm in the class. Their level of customer satisfaction may also change, right? Because what happens is, for example, typically companies in Europe and North America, when they outsource voice processing to India, voice call when they pick up, sometimes their customers are not happy because they think that they are not able to understand what people are talking about. Actually, this used to happen earlier. It doesn't happen now because, a lot of training are given to people to actually, cultural sensitization. Remember I talked about, and then language, accent, a lot of training is given. A lot of sensitization is given. But nevertheless, if I am doing work, something myself, right, I will ensure the quality is intact, right? But if I am doing work to somebody else, right, I will have to compromise with the quality. Sometime it happens. But it is believed over a period of time, company lose quality and the customer satisfaction because of outsourcing goes down. Various reasons. Also, erosion of intellectual property happens because what happens is, let's say when Apple was actually outsourcing manufacturing to China, it is believed, Apple thinks that a lot of intellectual property got lost, right? And a lot of Chinese companies have got access to Apple's intellectual property, and as a result, they are able to produce very competitive smartphones. What Apple is doing now is they are moving some of the manufacturing to India. For example, there is a big Apple manufacturing facilities coming in Karnataka, I think in somewhere in Kolar or somewhere. There is a big manufacturing facility coming up, right? So intellectual property erosion also happen, right? And loss of differentiation, because as IP goes away, differentiation means why iPhone or a certain any product sells better, because they are able to differentiate themselves from other products, right? In terms of quality and price and all that. So a lot of loss of differentiation happens. So these becomes quality, poor quality or loss of good quality or degradation in quality or declining customer satisfaction, erosion of intellectual property or loss of differentiation becomes the reason for insourcing, right? So companies say, I'm losing value, then I'm going to insource. And what happens is there's something called wage inflation, because you send work to India or China, an American company send works to India or China, and as that company in India grows, because their employees also getting increment, right? So their competitiveness also goes down, because then they ask for more money, because they have employees and they have to give increment to employees every year, right? And therefore they ask for more money to the companies in US or Europe, whomsoever they are working with, and then their competitiveness actually goes down. So what is companies are doing actually now, right? So companies are setting up something called global in-house centers as part of global location strategy. So as you see in Bangalore is a big beneficiary of something called GICs, right? GICs are global in-house centers, right? Just give me a minute. So if you see, there are a lot of captives. There's a term called captive. So the companies are coming from Europe and US and setting up their own shop as against outsourcing the work to likes of TCS and Infosys or Wipro or anybody else. What they are doing is, I want to maintain the quality. What they are doing is, Government of India has opened up further, saying that you can come and open your own company here, subsidiary in India, right? So what they are showing is they think that they can preserve their intellectual property better by opening their own branch in India. So you see, if you drive around Outer Ring Road, you will see Visa, you will see JP Morgan and Chase, you will see Allstate. It's a big insurance company in US. You will see State Farm. There are a lot of companies, right? Walmart has a analytics center, and we are going to invite Walmart to we will try to invite Walmart. All these companies we plan to invite to recruit from our company. Intuit, there are several companies actually have started their own center. I myself was managing a subsidiary of AIG in Bangalore, which was own subsidiary of AIG. And AIG is an American insurance company. So global in-house centers are examples of insourcing. Any questions on this? Is it clear? See, you must be wondering why it is important. It is important to know, when you go for an interview, let's say a Walmart Labs tomorrow, right? You can put that in the right perspective. Saying that when you're going for a Walmart Lab, why are they sitting in India, right? What kind of work will be there? Will you be part of Walmart? Yes, you will. Exactly, you will be an employee of Walmart if you work for Walmart Labs, or if you work for Target. Target is a big retail company in US, or Tesco has a big center in Whitefield, right? So there are a lot of hundreds of companies actually have set up global in-house centers in India. Hundreds of global companies have set up, right? And then many of them are in Bangalore. A large number of them are in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, Pune, these cities, and Mumbai. Any questions on this? Any thoughts? Any questions at all? Then geopolitical risk. Geopolitical risk is basically, as you can say, described as a probability, and I will not talk a lot about this. See, this is the biggest risk that businesses actually worry about, as actually written here. Geopolitical risk is the #1 global corporate risk. Internationally, it poses increasing management challenges, particularly at board level, increased volatility in previously stable regions, and uncertainties that follow political changes, and key geopolitical drivers of familiar and emergent risk. Right? If you can see on the chart, and I borrowed this chart from a company called Towers Watson. It's an international consulting firm. Almost everything actually is there. Future of work, ideology. If there is issue happening in Middle East because of certain ideology, it actually poses risk to rest of the world. Pandemic, right? Pandemic is actually is a good example of geopolitical migration control, right? When people flow from one, there was a flux of people from Middle East to Southern European state, or entire Europe actually, right? That posed a lot of problems actually, right? Again, I don't want to discuss the political aspect of it, but it has caused a lot of problem. It changes demography of region changes, right? And it generally I'm just trying to avoid actually getting into politics of it, right? And therefore I'm not able to explain that in much more detail. So there are several examples: environmental challenges, extreme weather. When the floods happened in Chennai in 2015, right? I was part of AIG, and I was managing also the entire IT outsourcing of AIG in India. So HCL has a center in a place called Sholinganallur in Chennai, right? It is very close to a marshy land and a lake. First 2 floors of that center was submerged in the water, right? And a lot of servers of AIG actually were submerged in the water. It caused a lot of issue, right? But HCL had a very good business continuity planning, so they could actually revive everything in a day's time, because they had a business continuity measures in place, right? So you can actually outsource what can become global, right? But it also poses, since world is so connected now, anything happens in any part of the world, whether it's a trade policy, or it's a pandemic, or it's a migration of people, or if it's an ethnic issue, right? Or anything or government disturbances, government instability, it can cause issue in the business, right? So geopolitical risk actually is a big issue in businesses, and risk management, enterprise risk management is another word actually which is used to manage geopolitical risk, right? There are several examples of geopolitical risk I've written here, right? Iran, Middle East, and international conflicts, jolt in the oil prices, tech wars, tension in some Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan actually, right? That continues to happen is a risk, right? Lot of businesses in US and Europe used to think that is it wise to actually outsource work to India because there is a risk of India-Pakistan war. But businesses in the work have realized that the power equation is completely heavily in favor of India, so the war will never happen, right? And the businesses are convinced, and therefore, businesses, the global trade in India is, continues to increase right, and we continue to get more and more work from countries. So Brexit is also as an example of Brexit, and they say that UK has come out, but if one more country comes out of European Union, right, European Union will collapse, right? Risk of collapse of EU is also thing. Then another important topic. Any questions on this? Any thoughts and questions? I will continue for another 15-20 minutes. I don't want to take a break. 15-20 minutes only I need extra. So we'll continue rather than taking a break. Yeah, I'm just touching upon the topic. I can go on in this topic for a long time, but I get a sense that it will be an overload at the end of the day, right? So mergers and acquisition. Have you heard of mergers and acquisition? That's another thing actually, which is very
Yes, sir.
important. Okay, give me an example of big merger that happened in India in recent times. Big merger. Anybody? Any merger that you have heard?
Maruti Suzuki.
Vodafone India.
Vodafone Idea.
Vodafone Idea, exactly. Vodafone Idea happened. Right? Vodafone Idea has come. Maruti Suzuki may have acquired companies. Yeah, Maruti Suzuki is an alliance. It's not really a merger. It's an alliance. It's a joint venture, if I understand it, right? But Vodafone Idea is a merger, right? It's a big merger that is happening. Recently, I had talked about Reliance trying to acquire retail business of Future Group, and Amazon creating trouble. Remember, I had, that is also an example of acquisition, right? The Reliance is trying to acquire, right? So mergers and acquisition happen. Recently, the company that I was working for, which I quit about 2 years back, the entire GIC, Global In-House Centers of AIG in India, were acquired last month by Accenture. Because AIG said, I don't want to be in the business, or even if I have to open my own business in centers in India, I don't want to be in the business of business process management and IT outsourcing. I don't want to manage my own IT. So they have they have sold it to Accenture. So Accenture is going to run that for them now, right? These are very important aspects, right? So why mergers and acquisition happen? I'm going to touch upon that only, right? Tata Steel bought Chorus long time back, right? And there are several mergers and acquisition happened, right? Renault bought Nissan several years back, a few decades back, 2 decades back, in fact, right? And in retail in India, which company acquired which American company acquired a big e-commerce company in India?
Walmart acquired
Flipkart.
Walmart acquired Flipkart, exactly, right? So, and then these continue to happen. They will continue to happen. Why they happen? Because of various reasons, because various motivation. Companies want larger market share, right? Walmart acquired Flipkart because they wanted to get into Indian e-commerce market, e-retail market, right? And they want to pie up this market share. Why Reliance is becoming very aggressive, right? They also want to come into, they are launching their own e-commerce service in India, right? Because they think there is a huge business that Flipkart Walmart is already there, Amazon is there, Reliance is going to also come. Merger and acquisition also happen because let's say a company XYZ, let's say TCS or Infosys want to, they are not strong in business analytics. I'm just giving an example, right? And they want to develop a business analytics practice, right? Business analytics practice, right? What they will do is there are two choices they have. Either they build it themselves, they get people who are skilled in business analytics, who understand Python, R, and they are actually also a good statistician. They understand the numbers very well, and then who also know the tool very well, and they also have a good knowledge of domain. They can get it and build the practice themselves, and then look for work, right? Another way is they look for a good business analytics firm already in the market, a small firm, small size firm, which has good skills, have good number of employees, and they have already good client base. They can go and buy them out, right? If they buy that out, they can buy that analytics firm and it becomes part of the Infosys, right? So they have suddenly got 250 people who are knowledgeable and skilled in business analytics, and I also got 15 clients, for example, right? And suddenly they have business analytics practice. Now they can start selling work in business analytics, right? So buy versus build, right? HUL bought a hair care company in Kerala a couple of years back. What was the name of that company? It's an oil firm. It's a hair oil company. Hindustan Unilever. It's an Ayurvedic oil firm. They bought that product and then they Indulekha. Indulekha is a hair oil firm, hair oil producer of hair oils and a marketer of hair oil. Few years back, Hindustan Unilever bought Indulekha and it became Hindustan Unilever firm. Right, so their market share went up in South India, in Kerala and this part of the world. Right, market expansion is the reason. Diversification, right? You want more. You want to diversify your product portfolio or your service portfolio, and right. So I give example of business analytics. I talked about Ayurvedic oils and things like that, right? And better use of capital, right? Companies, when they have a lot of surplus cash, it was blamed on Infosys, saying that over few years back, and now also they have a lot of cash, but they are not making good use of that cash. Either you return that cash if you have billions of dollars sitting as a profit and you have accumulated that cash. Either you expand your business, right, or you return that cash to investors, right? So it was a lot of market analysts who say that why doesn't Infosys go and buy some companies, right, and expand, right? So mergers and acquisition happen is another huge global business environment activity which continues to happen. Companies continue to consolidate because of various reasons that I have mentioned here, right? We discuss some of the merger and acquisition in India, right? Now, there is a lot of talk about this, right? It's a big topic. I had done a couple of sessions for DSU actually last year on this, right? Climate change and sustainability. I would just touch upon it and then say that everybody should know what is a Paris Climate Agreement, right? And not recently, last year, maybe a couple of years back, 2018, Donald Trump said, "I am not going to sign. I am not going to be a signatory to Paris Climate Agreement." So I want everybody to Google this and search it, what Paris Climate Agreement is. But Paris Climate Agreement aims to keep global warming below 2 degrees centigrade by the end of 21st century. They're saying that temperature should not go beyond, they should not increase beyond 2 degrees by end of 21st century, and pursue efforts to limit the temperature rise. And they should say we should try to limit it to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So there, every country has a, requirements to contain emission. Even the IT companies also have requirements to manage this, something called carbon footprint, right? So Infosys recently, I think couple of weeks back only said they were able to meet their requirement, right, to manage their carbon footprint, right? So basically, restriction on countries are applied. So in Paris in 2018, this agreement happened, and then countries decided to keep the global warming, level to 1.5, less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. So companies had to sign for emission requirements, and those actually requirements actually flow down to manufacturing companies, right? And then those companies have to sign for the certain protocols, right? And then basically pollution control boards actually will approve or disapprove companies, new industries, or impose newer restrictions actually to manage the carbon footprint, right? And you can see in automobile companies, right? We would have read in Maruti when they release it is for Bharat 4 compliant or Bharat 2 compliant and all that. They're example of basically sustainability requirements, right? I don't want to get into this too much in detail, but this is an important topic for you to keep it in mind. You don't have to be expert in this, but you should know there's something called Paris Climate Agreement and what it is trying to do, right? I will skip this. I would also tell which are the other topics you should read from the point of view of your interviews. And general awareness on contemporary things, insolvency and bankruptcy code. Has anybody heard of IBC? Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in India. IBC. If I give a topic of has IBC benefited Indian corporates in group discussion, will you be able to talk about it, is my question. What is insolvency? A company is solvent means what?
Company is unable to pay its liabilities is insolvent.
Absolutely, excellent. I really appreciate that. Absolutely, right? So government of India came up with IBC, saying that companies, if they are not able to meet their requirement, right? If they are not able to service their debt obligations, they can take advantage. And in reality, if they are not trying to fudge the numbers, right? It's a genuine problem. They can take advantage of IBC and they can find a suitable buyer, right? And they can get bought by somebody else. It was very difficult. So I think you should get yourself, familiar with IBC. Effect of pandemic. This could be a topic. Indo-China border issues. Make in India. Monetary and fiscal policy. What is monetary policy? What is monetary policy and what is fiscal policy? I think I had talked about it actually, right? Who manages monetary policy?
RBI and Government of India.
Okay, RBI. So fiscal policy, yeah, okay, fiscal policy is managed, budget and expenditure is managed by the government, which is fiscal policy, right? The exchange rate and interest rates are managed by RBI, which is monetary policy, right? So currency management, inflation, exchange rate and interest rates, right? Exchange rates and interest rates are managed by RBI we don't really fudge exchange rates to actually, we have a certain boundaries, and RBI may actually buy or sell dollars to kind of manage the rate, but they don't fix it in a way, right? So monetary policy is for managing interest rate, currency value, and also to basically manage inflation. And fiscal policy is the government of India. Finance minister actually responsible for fiscal policy, which is basically budget and expenditure, right? And your trade surplus and current account deficit and all that. That is all part of fiscal policy. All of you should know it, whether you are marketing or you're HR or your supply chain or your finance. Everybody should know this, right? That's it. This was in short global business environment. In some prime topics I covered it, and I don't really have anything else for today. But Let me stop and see if there are any questions that you may have, that you may want to ask. Anything at all. Tomorrow I'm going to have a session on agile methodology, right? It's a very important topic, right? Agile came from IT, but it is applicable for non-IT businesses also, right? And I'm going to have about 90-minute session on agile tomorrow. It's a brief session, about 1 hour, 20 minutes to 90 minutes, but it's an important session for you to understand agile and write in your resume saying that yes, you are aware of agile. So tomorrow 9 o'clock we'll have that session. Any questions? Any thoughts? Nothing? Okay then. Then have a good evening and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, students. Please, students, please submit the feedback. The link is shared. Thank you, sir. Thank you.